Hello, good evening, everyone. Thank you very much. Joining once again the teaching on the Jatakamala, the story, past life stories of Buddha, which is very important for us to hear and listen and understand and believe. So that's why we are going through this. So before we start this, just let's do the regular prayers, refuge, and generation of bodhicitta, and for immeasurables. Oyenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Aite Refuge Eladama Bhavachu Ajendala Ashare Vadavadrubi Yenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Aite Refuge Eladama Bhavachu Ajendala Ashare Vadavadrubi Yenda Buddha Dhamma Sangha Aite Refuge Eladama Bhavachu Ajendala Ashare Vadavadrubi. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near far. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those near far. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness, and may they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to the near and far, according to the intelligence and predisposition of it, where the yajanda dharma agrela and common vehicles. Once again, thank you, everyone. Either now or later, whichever. It seems there's at least good 200-300 each week people watching, so it's good. We are reaching out a lot more people than we would ever achieved in the past. So it's very good that these are teachings on the life of past lives of the Buddha that are told by the Buddha, that are recorded in both in Pali and Sanskrit, and therefore subsequently translated into many Buddhist countries and the languages. These stories are not only told, but listened to. But not only listened, they're believed. And not only these stories are told, listened and believed, they have been carved on rocks, carved on wood, and many balustrades and panels of the Buddhist temples, rock carvings in the whole Asian subcontinent, from India, from South India, all the way to Indonesia, all the way to China and Japan. Everywhere you go to the Buddhist temple, you will see these incredible frescoes in the monasteries or carvings on the rocks or whatever. They're all lives of the Buddha's past life stories. The purpose of this is so that these are heard and people know who the stories are about, what the morale of the story is. And of course, when Buddha was telling these stories, he was telling to the audience such and such, and almost everybody knew. Like if I'm talking about everybody knew. Oh, you were such and such, he was such and such, we were like that. So most people say, gosh, can you believe it? They couldn't, most people can't believe it. It wasn't the Buddha telling it. I don't think most people would think is a so this challenges Buddhists with beliefs. When the Buddhists with beliefs, of course, they don't doubt about it. They believe in that. But remember, there's lots of people who think Buddhism can be practiced without believing anything. So it's a good challenge for them. So please, I'm telling you, for the sake of making you believe these stories and starting to understand some aspects of this, the morale of these stories, relevant to your own lives. Today I have chosen one story that has many characters. And also all those characters are featured, here. So this is from the Kurudama Jataka, number 276 out of the 500. It's called Knowing Thy Faith. The story the master told while dwelling in Jatakamala about a brother that killed a wild goose. True brothers, great friends, who came from Shravasti and had embraced the Dharma after taking their higher orders, used generally to go about together. One day they came to Achiravati. After a bath, they stood on the sand, basking in the sunlight and taking pleasantly together. At that moment, two wild goose flew over their heads. One of the young fellows picked up a stone. "I'm going to hit that goose bird in the eyes," says he. "You can't," says the other. "Then I can," says the first. "And not only that, I can hit either his eye or that eye as I please." "Not you," says the other. "Look here then," says the first, and picking up a three-cornered stone, threw it after the bird. The bird turned its head on hearing the pebble whiz through the air, and then the other, seizing a round pebble, threw it so that it hit near eye and came out of the other. The goose, with a loud cry, turned over and fell at their very feet. The brothers who were standing about saw what had occurred and ran up, reproaching him. "What a shame," and said they, "that you who have embraced such a doctrine as ours should take the life of a living creature." They made him go before the Tathagata with them. "Is what they say true?" asked the master. "Have you really taken the life of the living creature?" "Yes, sir," replied the brother. "Brother," said he, "how is it that you have done this thing after embracing so great salvation? Wise men of the old, before the Buddha appeared, though they lived in the world and worldly life is impure, felt remorse about mere trifles, but you who have embraced this great doctrine have no scruples. A brother ought to hold himself in control in deed, word, and thought." Then he told the story. So, once upon a time, there's always something happen, and then Buddha tells a story. Yeah? So, once upon a time, when Dhanajaya was a king of Indrapatiya city in the Kuru kingdom, the Bodhisattva was born as a son of his queen consort. By the by, he grew up and was educated in Taxila. His father made him viceroy, and afterwards, on his father's death, he became the king and grew in the Guru righteousness, keeping the 10 royal duties. Guru righteousness means 5 virtues. These Bodhisattva observed and kept pure, as did Bodhisattva. Even so did Queen Mother, Queen Consort, young brother, viceroys, family priest, Brahmin, driver, courtier, charioteer, treasurer, master of granaries, noble porter, courtesan, the slave girl, and all did the same. King, mother, consort, viceroys, chaplain too, driver and charioteer and treasurer, and he that governed the king's granaries, porter and the courtesan, cleaving and all, observed the rules of Guru righteousness. Thus all these did observe the 5 virtues and kept them untarnished. The king built 6 almonries, 1 at each of the 4 city gates, 1 in the midst of the city, and 1 at his own door. Daily he distributed 600,000 pieces of money and alms, by which he stirred up the whole of India. All India was overspread by his love and delight in charity. At this period there was in the city of Adantapura, in the kingdom of Kalinga, king named King Kalinga. In his realm the rain fell not, and because of the drought there was a famine in the land. The people thought the lack of food might produce pestilence, and there was fear of drought and fear of famine. These 3 fears were ever present before them, that people wandered about destitute hither and thither, leading their children by the hand. All the people in the kingdom gathered together and came to Dantapura, and there at the king's door they made outcry. As the king stood by the window, he heard the noise and spake and asked why the people were making all the noise. "Oh, sir," was the reply, "3 fears have raised upon all your kingdom. There falls no rain, the crop fail, there is famine. The people, starving, diseased, and destitute, are wandering about in their little ones by the hand. Make rain for us, O king." Said the king, "What used to former monarchs to do if it would not rain? Former monarchs, O king, if it would not rain, used to give alms to keep the holy day, and make vows of virtue, and to lie down 7 days in the chamber on a grass pallet, then the rain would fall." "Very good," the king said, "and even so did he. Still, even so, there came no rain." King said to his court, "As you bade me, I have done, but there's no rain. What am to do? O king, in the city of Indrapatha, there is a state elephant named Anjana Vasebo, the black bull. It belongs to Dhanajaya, the Kuru king. This let us fetch, then the rain will come." "But how can we do that? The king and his army are not easy to overcome." "O king, there is no need to fight him. The king is fond of giving. He loves giving. Were he but asked, but he would even cut off his head, all its magnificence, or tear out his gracious eyes, and give it up his kingdom. There will be no need even to plead for the elephant. He will give it without fail." "But who is able to ask him?" said the king. "The Brahmins, great king." The king summoned 8 Brahmins from a Brahmin village, and with all honor and request sent them to ask for the elephant. They took money for the journey and donned traveling garbs, and without resting, passed night in the place, traveled quickly until after a day they took their meal at the alms hall in the city gate. When they had satisfied their bodily wants, they asked, "What does this king come to the almari?" The answer was, "On 3 days in the fortnight, 14th, 15th, and the 8th. But tomorrow is the full moon, so he will come tomorrow also." So early the next day, the Brahmins went and entered by the eastern gate. The Bodhisattva also washed and anointed, all adorned and rarely arrayed, mounted upon the fine elephant richly caparisoned, came with a great company to the alms hall at the eastern gate. There he dismounted and gave food to 7 or 8 people with his own hand. In this manner give, said he, and mounting his elephant departed to the south gate. And the eastern gate At the eastern gate, the Brahmins had no chance owing to the force of the royal guard, so they proceeded to the south and watched when the king should come. When the king reached the rising ground not far from the gate, they raised their hands and hailed the king victorious. The king guided his animal with his sharp goad to the place where they were. "Well, Brahmin, what is your wish?" asked he. Then the Brahmins declared the virtues of Bodhisattva in the first stanza. "Knowing thy faith and virtue, Lord, we come. For these beasts ask our wealth we spend at home." To this the Bodhisattva made answer, "Brahmins, if all your wealth has been exhausted in getting this elephant, never mind, I give him to you with all his splendor." Thus comforting them, he repeated these 2 verses. "Whether or no ye serve for livery, whatever creatures shall come here to me, and my preceptors taught me long ago, all that come here shall always welcome be. This elephant to you for gift I bring, 'tis a king's portion, worthy of a king. Take him with all the trappings, golden chain, driver and all, and go your way again." Thus spoke the great king, mounted upon his elephant's back. Then dismounting, he said to them, "If there is a spot on him unadorned, I will adorn it and then give it to you." Thrice he went about creatures, turning around right and examined him, but he found no spot on him without adornment. Then he put the trunk into Brahmin's hands and besprinkled him with scented water from a fine golden vase and made him over to him. The Brahmin accepted the elephant with his belongings, and sitting themselves upon his back, rode to Dhanapura and handed him over to the king. But although the elephant was come, no rain fell yet. Then the king asked again, "What can be the reason?" They said, "Dhananjaya, the Kuru king, observes the king Kuru righteousness. Therefore in his realm it rains every 10 or 15 days. That is the power of the king's goodness. If in this animal there is any good, how little it must be." Then said the king, "Take this elephant, caparisoned as he is, with all his belongings, and give it back to the king. Write upon a golden plate the Kuru righteousness which he observes, and bring it hither." With these words he dispatched the Brahmin and the courtiers. These came before the king and restored his elephant, saying, "My lord, even when your elephant came, no rain fell in your country. They said that you observe the Kuru righteousness. Our king is wishful himself to observe it, and he has sent us, bidding us write it upon a golden plate and bring it to him. Tell us this righteousness." "Friends," says the king, "indeed I did once observe this righteousness, but now I am in doubt about this very point. This righteousness does not bless my heart now, therefore I cannot give it to you." "Why?" you may ask. Did not virtue bless the king any longer? Well, every 3rd year, in the month of Kartika, the king used to hold a festival called the Kartika feast. While keeping his feast, the king used to dig themselves out in great magnificence and dress up like gods. They stood in presence of a goblin named Chittaraja, the king of many colors, and they would shoot to the 4 points of the compass arrows wreathed with flowers and painted in diverse colors. This king then, in keeping the feast, stood on the bank of the lake in the presence of Chittaraja and shot arrows to the 4 quarters. They could see whither 3 of the arrows went, but the fourth, which was shot over the water, this they saw not. Thought the king, perchance the arrow where I have shot has fallen upon some fish. As this doubt arose, the sin of life-taking made a flaw in his virtue. That is why his virtue did not bless him as before. This the king told them and added, "Friends, I am in doubt about myself, whether or no I do observe the Kuru righteousness, but my mother keeps it well. You can get it from her." "But, O king," said they, "you had no intent to take life. Without the intent of the heart, there is no taking of life. Give us the Kuru righteousness which you have kept." Right then, said he, and he caused them to write upon the plate of gold, "Slay not the living, take not what is not given, walk not evilly in lust, speak no lies, drink no strong drink." Thus he added, "Still he does not bless me. You had better learn it from my mother." The messengers saluted the king and visited the queen mother. "The lady," said they say, "you keep the Kuru righteousness. Pass it on to us." Said the queen mother, "My sons, indeed I did once keep this righteousness, but now I have my doubts. This righteousness does not make me happy, so I cannot give it to you." Now we are told that she had 2 sons, the elder being king and the younger viceroys. The certain king sent to the Bodhisattva perfumes of fine sandalwood worth 100,000 places, and golden necklace worth 100,000. And he, thinking to do this mother honor, sent the whole to her. Thought she, "I do not perform myself with sandalwood. I do not wear a necklace. I will let them to my sons' wives." Then the thought occurred to her, "My elder son's wife is my lady. She is the chief queen. To her will I give the gold necklet. But the wife of the younger son is poor creature, for to her I will give the sandal perfume." And so to the one she gave the necklet, and the perfume gave she to the other. Afterwards she bethought her, "I keep the Guru righteousness, whether they be poor or whether they be not poor is no matter. It is not seemly that I should pay court to the elder. Perchance by not doing this I have made a flaw in my virtue." And she began to doubt. That is why she spoke as she did. The messenger said, when it is in your hand, a thing is given even as you will. If you have scruples about a thing so small as that, what other sin would you ever do? Virtue is not broken by a thing of that kind. Give us the Kuru righteousness. And from her also they received it and wrote it upon the golden plate. "All the same, my sons," said Queen Mother, "I am not happy in this righteousness, but my daughter-in-law observes it well. Ask her for it." So they took their leave respectfully and asked the daughter in the same way as before. And as before, she replied, "I cannot, for I keep it myself no longer." How now one day, as she sat at a lattice, looking down, she saw the king making a solemn procession about the city, and behind him, on the elephant's back, sat the viceroys. She fell in love with him and thought, "What if I were to strike up a friendship with him, and his brother were to die, then he were to become the king and take me to wife?" Then it flashed across her mind, "I who keep the Kuru righteousness, who am married to a husband, I have looked with love upon another man. Here is the flaw in my virtue." Remorse seized upon her. Thus this she told the messengers. Then they said, sin is not mere uprising of a thought. If you feel remorse for so small a thing as this, what transgression could you ever commit? Not by such a small matter is virtue broken. Give me this righteousness. And she likewise told it to them, and they wrote it upon the golden plate. But she said, however, my sons, my virtue is not perfect, but the viceroys observe these rules as well. Go ye and receive them from him. Then again they repaired to the viceroys, and as before asked for the Kuru righteousness. Now the viceroys used to go and pay his devours to the king at evening, and when they came to the palace courtyard in his car, if he wished to eat with the king and spend the night there, he would throw his reins and goad upon the yoke, and that was the sign for the people to depart. And next morning early they would come again and stand awaiting the viceroy's departures. And the charioteer would attend the car, and some come again with it early in the morning and wait by the king's door. But if the viceroys would depart at the same time, he left the rein and goad there in the chariot, and went into to wait upon the king. Then the people, taking it to a sign that he would presently depart, stood waiting there at the palace door. One day he did thus, and went in the wait upon the king. But as he was within, it began to rain, and the king, remarking this, would not let him go away. So he took his meal and slept there. But a great crowd of people stood expecting him to come out, and there they stayed all night in the wet. Next day the viceroys came out, and seeing the crowd standing there drenched, thought he, I who kept the Kuru righteousness have put all this crowd in discomfort. Surely here is a flaw in my virtue. And he was seized with remorse. So he said with the messengers, no, now doubt has come to my mind if I indeed do I keep the righteousness. Therefore I cannot give it to you. And he told them the matter. But, said they, you never had the wish to plague those people. What is not intended is not counted for one's score. If you feel remorse for so small a thing, in what would you ever transgress? So they received from him too the knowledge of this righteousness, wrote it on their plate, golden plate. However, said he, this righteousness is not perfected in me, but my chaplain keeps it well. Go, ask him for it. And then again they went out to the chaplain. Now the chaplain one day had been going to wait upon the king. On the road he saw the chariot sent to the king by another king, colored like a young son. Whose chariot, he asked. Sent for the king, they said. Then he thought, I am an old man. If the king were to give me that chariot, how nice it would be to ride about it. When he came before the king and stood by, after greeting him with prayers for prosperity, they showed the chariot to the king. That is the most beautiful car, said the king. Give it to my teacher. But the chaplain did not like taking it. Not though he was begged again and again. Why was this? Because the thought came to his mind, I who practice Kuru righteousness have coveted another's goods. Surely there is a flaw in my virtue. So he told the story to these messengers, adding, my sons, I am in doubt about the Kuru righteousness. This righteousness does not bless me now, therefore I cannot teach it to you. But the messenger said, not by mere uprising of covetise is virtue broken. If you feel a scruple in so small a matter, what real righteousness you would ever do? And from him also they received righteousness and wrote it on their golden plate. Still this goodness does not bless me now, said he, but the royal driver carefully practices it. Go to ask him. They found the royal driver and asked him. Now they're almost running out of people. Now the driver one day was measuring a field, tying a cord to a stick. He gave one end to the owner to the field to hold. He took the other himself. The stick tied on the other end of the cord which he had come to crab's lurk hole. Thought he, if I put the stick in the hole, the crab in the hole will be hurt. If I put it in the other side, the king's property will lose. And if I put it on this side, the farmer will lose. What's to be done? Then he thought again. The crab ought to be in his hole, but if he were, he wouldn't show himself. So he put the stick in the hole. The crab made a click noise inside. Then he thought, oh, the stick must have stuck upon the crab, and it must have killed him. I observed the Guru righteousness. Now here is a flaw in it. So he told them this and added, so now I have my doubts about it, so I cannot give it to you. Said the messengers, you had no wish to kill the crab. What is done without intent is not counted to the score. If you feel a scruple about so small a matter, what real transgression would you ever do? And they took the righteousness from his lips likewise and wrote it on the golden plate. However, said he, though this does not bless me, the charioteer practiced it carefully. Go and ask him. So they took their leave and sought out the charioteer. Now the charioteer one day drove the king into the park in the car. There the king took his pleasure during the day, and evening returned and entered the chariot. But before he could get back to the city at the time of sunset, a storm cloud arose. The charioteer, fearing the king might get wet, touched up the team with the goad. The steeds sped in softly home, and ever since going to the park and coming from it, from that spot they went at speed. Why was this? Because they thought there must be some danger at this spot. That there was why the charioteer had touched them with the goad. Then the charioteer thought, if the king is wet and dry, 'tis no fault of mine, but I have given the touch of a goad out of season or to these well-trained steeds, so they run at speed again and again till they tired, all by my doing. If I observe the Kuru righteousness, surely there is a flaw in it now. This he told the messengers, and said, for this cause I am in doubt about it, and I cannot give it to you. But, said they, you did not mean to tie the horse, and what's done without meaning is not set to the score. If you feel a scruple about so small a matter, what real transgression could you ever commit? And they learned the righteousness from him also, and wrote it down on the golden plate. But the charioteer sent them in search of a certain wealthy man, saying, even though this righteousness does not bless me, he keeps it carefully. So to this rich man they came, and they asked. Now he one day had gone to his paddy field, and seeing a head of rice bursting the husk, went about to tie it up, and a wisp of rice. Taking a handful of it, he tied the head to the post. Then it occurred to him, from this field I have yet to give the king his due, and I have taken handful of rice from an untithed field. I who observe the rules of Kuru righteousness, surely I must have broken them. And this matter he told the messenger, saying, now I am in doubt about the righteousness, so I cannot give it to you. But, said they, you had no thought of thieving, while this one cannot be proclaimed guilty of theft. If you feel scruples in such a small matter, when will you ever take what belongs to another man? And from him, too, they received the righteousness and wrote it down on the golden plate. He added, "Still, though I'm not happy in this matter, the master of the royal granaries keeps these rules well. Go and ask him." So they betook them to the master of granaries. Now this man, as he sat one day at the door of the granary, causing the rice of the king's tax to be measured, took a grain from the heap which was not measured and put it down for a marker. At that moment, rain began to fall. The official mounted up the markers, and so many, and they swept them all together and dropped them upon the heap which had been measured. Then he ran in quickly and sat in the gatehouse. "Did I throw the markers on the measure heap or the unmeasured?" he wondered, and the thought came to his mind, "If I drew them on what was already measured, the king's property has been increased, and the owners have lost. I keep the Guru righteousness. Now, here is a flaw." So he told this to the messenger, adding that, therefore, he had his doubts about it, and he could not give it to him. But the messenger said, "You had no thought of theft, and without this, no one can be declared guilty of dishonesty. If you feel scruples in a small matter like this, when would you ever steal anything belonging to another?" And from him, too, they received the righteousness and wrote it on their golden plate. "But," added he, "although this virtue is not perfect in me, there is a gatekeeper who observes it well. Go and get it from him." So they went off and asked the gatekeeper. Now it so happened that one day, at the time for closing the city gate, he cried aloud 3 times. And a certain poor man who had gone into the woodland, gathering sticks and leaves for his youngest sister, hearing the sound, came running up with her. Says the doorkeeper, "What? Don't you know the king is in the city? Don't you know the gate of this town is shut betimes? Is that why you go out into the woods making love?" Said the other, "No matter, it is not my wife, but my sister." Then the porter thought, "How unseemly to address sister a wife as a wife, and I keep the rules of gurus. Surely I must have broken them now." "'Tis this," he told the messengers, adding, In this way I have my doubt whether I really keep the Guru righteousness, and so I cannot give it to you." But they said, "You said it because you thought so. This does not break your virtue. If you feel remorse so on such a slight cause, how would you ever tell a lie with intent?" And so they took down those virtues from him too and wrote them on the golden plate. Then he said, "But though this virtue does not bless me, there is a courtesan who keeps it well. Go to and ask her." And so they did. She refused as the others had done for the following reason. Shaka, the king of gods, designed to try his goodness, so putting on the shape of a youth, he gave her 1,000 pieces, saying, "I'll come by and buy." Then he returned to heaven, did not wait her for 3 years. And she, for honor's sake, for 3 years took not so much a piece of betel from another man. By degrees she got poor, and then she thought, "The man who gave us 1,000 pieces has not come these 3 years, and now I have grown poor. I cannot keep body and soul together. Now I must go to tell Chief Justice and get my wage as before." So to the court she came and said, "There was a man 3 years ago, gave me 1,000 pieces and never came back. Whether he be dead, I know not. I cannot keep body and soul together. What am I to do, my lord? Said he. If he does not come for 3 years, what can you do? Earn your wage as before. As soon as she left that court after this award, there came a man who offered her 1,000. As she held out her hands to take it, Shaka said this: "Here is a man who gave me 1,000 pieces 3 years ago. I must not take your money." And she drew back her hand. Then Shaka caused his own proper shape to be seen and hovered in the air, shining like a sun, fresh risen, and gathered all the city together. Shakra, in the midst of the crowd, said, "To test her goodness, I gave her 1,000 pieces 3 years ago. Be like her, and like her, keep your honor." And with this monition, he filled her dwelling with jewels of 7 kinds, and saying, "Henceforth, be vigilant." He comforted her and went away to heaven. So for this cause, she refused, saying, "Because before I had earned one wage, I held out my hand for another. Therefore my virtue is not perfect, so I cannot give it to you." So this messenger replied, "Merely to hold out the hand is not a breach of virtue. That virtue of yours is the highest perfection. And from her, as from the rest, they received the rule of virtues and wrote them on the golden plate. They took it with them to Dantapura and told the king how they had fared. Then their king practiced the Kuru precepts and fulfilled the 5 virtues. And then in all the realm of Kalinga, the rain fell, the 3 fears were allayed, and land became prosperous and fertile. The Bodhisattva all his life long gave alms and did good, and then with his subject went to fill the heavens. When the teacher had ended this discourse, he declared the truths and explained the birth tale. At the conclusion of the truths, some entered the first path, some the second. This is talking about Arhathood. Some entered the third, and some became saints, meaning Arhats. And the birth tale is thus explained. Upalavana was the courtesan. Punya the porter, the driver was Kachana, Kolita the measurer, the rich man Shariputra, he who drove the chariot Aniruddha, and the priest who was Kashyapa the elder, and he that was viceroy now is the Nanda Pandita. Rahula's brother was the queen consort, the queen mother was Maya, and the king was Bodhisattva. Thus the birth is clear. So they've been all together. Incredible. So everybody being very, very careful. So that's so many of them were connected. So it means that everybody's connected sometime in the past as they are connected in this life. So there's nobody there by sheer kind of random. There's somebody in our lives that were someone that we were somebody else. We did various things with and together, and so therefore one must remember that every time we are in situations, we have to be gentle, and so as to know that we have been there together for whatever reasons. Now here it is. How can I improve on top of this? So that's really the story about the morale of the stories. Talking about how even smallest non-virtue, that is only intentionally, one should not overlook them, but at the same time one should not be unscrupulous, even they are small, and one should not ignore the small virtues saying it is too small, nor the small non-virtues saying that they're too small. They all have similar consequences sooner or latter. The fact that the telling of the stories like these things are, in order to expand our mind's capacity to be able to believe things, and therefore not think that we are in random choice in this life. Now I move to a next story called Sujata's story, the girl who offered the Buddha the rice meal, and this goes straight into the story. Those who are dowered, that's called. This story the master told while living in Jetavana about Sujata, the daughter-in-law of Anathapindika, daughter of a great merchant Dhananjaya, the youngest sister of Visakha. So these are talking about all the people in Buddha's life. And Anathapindika is his great sponsor and benefactor, and then the daughter-in-law is Sujata. I don't know whether this is Sujata, the same Brahmin girl or not. Anyway, let's find out. We are told that she entered the house of Anathapindika full of haughtiness, thinking how great a family she had come from, and she was obstinate, violent, passionate, and cruel, refused to do her part towards her new father and mother or her husband, went about the house with harsh words and hard blows to everyone. One day, the master and 500 brothers visited Anathapindika's house and took their seats. The great merchant sat beside the Blessed One. Great merchant is Anathapindika, hearkening to his discourse. At the same time, Sujata happened to be scolding the servants. The master ceased speaking and asked what the noise was. The merchant explained that it was his rude daughter-in-law, that she did not behave properly towards her husband or his parents. She gave no alms and had no good points. Faithless and unbelieving, she went about the house scolding day and night. The master bade sent for her. The woman came in, and after saluting the master, she stood on one side. Then the master addressed to her thus, Sujata, there are 7 kinds of a wife a man may have. Of which sort are you? She replied, Sir, you speak too shortly for me to understand. Please explain. Well, said the master, listen attentively. And he uttered the following verse. One is bad-hearted, nor compassionate. The good loves others, but her lord she hates, destroying all that her lord's wealth obtains. The wife is a title of a destroyer gains. So there are how many types of wife? 7 types of wife. There's one verse for every wife. That's one. Second verse, whatever the husband gets for her by trade, or skilled profession, or the farmer's spade, she tried to filch a little out of it. For such a wife, the title thief is fit. Third one, careless of duty, lazy, passionate, greedy, and foul-mouthed, and full of wrath and hate, tyrannical to all her underlings. All this the title high and mighty brings. Who everyone compassionate the good, cares for her husband as a mother would, guards all the wealth her husband may obtain. This wife's title motherly will gain. She who respects her husband in the way young sisters reverence the elders pay, modest, obedient to her husband's will, the sisterly is this wife's title still. She whom her husband's sight will always please, as friend that friend after long absence sees, high bred and virtuous, giving up her life, to him this one is called the friendly wife. Calm when abused, afraid of violence, nor passion, full of dogged patience, true-hearted, bending to her husband's will, slave is the little title given to her still. These Sujata are the 7 wives a man may have. 3 of these, the destructive wife, the dishonest wife, the Madam High and Mighty, are reborn in hell. The other 4 are in the 5th heaven. They who are called destroyer in this life, the high and mighty, or the thievish wife, being angry, wicked, disrespectful, go out of the body into hell below. They who are called the friendly in this life, motherly, sisterly, and slavish wife, by virtue and their long self-mastery, pass into heaven when their bodies die. While the master was explaining these 7 kinds of wives, Sujata attained the fruit of the first path. And when the master asked to which class she belonged, she answered, "I am a slave, sir," and respectfully saluting the Buddha, gained pardon of him. Thus, by admonition, the master tamed the shrew, and after the meal, when he had declared their duties amidst the brotherhood, he entered his sainted chamber. Now the brethren gathered together in the hall of truth and sang the master's praises. Friend, by a single admonition, the master has tamed shrew, raised her to fruition of the first path. The master entered and asked what they were talking as they sat together. They told him, said he, the brethren, this is not the first time that I have tamed Sujata by single admonition. And he proceeded to tell the old world tale. So now that's not the story yet. The story is coming. Once upon a time, while Brahmadatta reigned over Benares, the Bodhisattva was born as the son of his queen consort. When he grew up, he received his education in Taxila, and after death of his father, he became king and ruled in righteousness. His mother was a passionate woman, cruel and harsh, shrewish, ill-tongued. The son wished to admonish his mother, but he felt he must not do anything so disrespectful, so he kept on a look out for a chance of dropping a hint. One day he went down into the grounds, and his mother went with him. A blue jay screeched on the road. At this, all the courtiers stopped their ears, crying, "What a harsh voice! What a shirk! Don't make that noise!" While the Bodhisattva was walking through the park with his mother and a company of players, a cuckoo, all the bystanders were delighted at her voice. Clasping their hands and stretching them out, they besought her, "Oh, what a soft voice, what a kind voice, what a gentle voice. Sing away, birdie, sing away." And they stood stretching their necks, eagerly listening. The Bodhisattva, noting these 2 things, thought that he chanced to drop a hint to the Queen Mother. "Mother," said he, when they heard the jays cry on the road, everybody stopped their ears and called out, "Don't make that noise. Don't make the noise," and stopped up their cars, for harsh sounds are liked by nobody. And he repeated the following stanza: "Those who are dowered with a lovely hue, though never so fair and beautiful to view, yet they have a voice all harsh to hear. Neither in this world nor the next are dear. There is a bird that you may often see, ill-favored, black and speckled though it be, yet its soft voice is pleasant to the ear. How many creatures hold the cuckoo dear? Therefore your voice should gentle be the sweet, why speaking not puffed up with the self-conceit? And such a voice, how sweet the sound of it! Explain the meaning of the holy writ." When the Bodhisattva had thus admonished his mother with these 3 verses, he won her over to his way of thinking. And even afterwards, she followed the right course of living. And he, having, by one word, made his mother a self-denying woman, afterwards pass away to fare according to his deeds. When the masters had ended the discourse, he then thus identified the birth. Sujata was the mother of the king of Benares, and I was the king himself. That's an interesting story. Okay, there's a little bit shorter one here. Okay. The owl is a king. The story the master had told while living at Jatakamala about a quarrel between crows and owls. At the period in question, the crows used to eat the owl during the day, and at night the owls flew about, nipping off the heads of the crows as they slept, and thus killing them. There was a certain brother who lived in a cell on the outskirts of Jatakamala. When the time came for sweeping, there used to be a quantity of crows' heads to throw away, and he had dropped from this tree enough to fill 7 or 8 bottles. He told this to the brethren. In the hall of truth, the brethren began to talk about it. Friend, brother so and so, over so many crows' heads to throw away every day in the place where he lives. The master came in and asked what they were talking about, and they sat together. They told him. They went to ask how long it was since the crows and owls fell quarreling. The master replied, since the time of the first age of the world. And then he told them the old story tale. Once upon a time, there lived people who lived in the first cycle of the world gathered together and took for their king a certain man, handsome, auspicious, commanding, altogether perfect. The quadrupeds also gathered and chose the king lion. And the fish in the ocean chose them, fish called Ananda. And then all the birds in the Himalayas assembled upon a flat rock, crying, among men there is a king, among the beasts, among the fish have one too, but amongst us birds, king there is none. We should not live in anarchy, we too should choose a king. Fix on some one fit to be met in the king's place. They search about for such a bird to choose and choose the owl. Here is the bird we like, said they. And the bird made proclamation 3 times to all there would be a vote taken on this matter. After patiently hearing this announcement twice, on the 3rd time rose a crow and cried out, stay now. If that is what he looks like, and he's being consecrated king, what will he look like when he is angry? If he only looks at us in anger, we shall be scattered like a sesame seeds thrown onto a hot plate. I don't want to make this fellow king. And enlarging upon this, he uttered the first stanza. The owl is king, you say? Over all bird kind. With your permission, may I speak my mind? The birds repeated the second, granting him leave to speak. You have your leave, you have our leave, sir. So it be good and right. For other birds are young and wise and bright. Thus permitted, he repeat the third. I like not with all difference is be it said, to have an owl anointed as our head. Look at this face, look at his face. If this good humor be, what will be do when he looks angry? Then he flew up into the air and cawing out, I don't like it, I don't like it. The owl rose and pursued him. Thenceforth those two nursed enmity one towards another. all the birds choose a golden goose for their king and disperse. When the master had ended this discourse, he declared the truth and identified the birth. At that time, the wild goose chosen for king was I myself. This is a short story. That seven wife thing, actually, it's interesting it occur in this but Nagarjuna has wrote in his text called Precious Garland. He described the seven kinds of women, So actually word for word, But people think it's Nagarjuna writing, but Nagarjuna always he's much earlier. He's early enough to find all the Buddha's words and he put them in his writings. So yeah, as soon as I read this, I remember the what's in the Precious Garland of Nagarjuna, where he talks about women in a kind of a negative way, which a lot of people take an offense. Okay, next one. I think I read one from here. So this from Arya Sura's story. Yeah. Okay, this is story number 25, called Story of the Sharaba. Even to him who attempt their life, the intensely compassionate, show pity in his distress, they will not disregard such a one. This will be taught in the following. One time it is said the Bodhisattva was a Sharaba. Sharaba is a kind of a deer and maybe and a griffin mixed together. Anyway, Sharaba, living in a remote part of certain forest. That region lying beyond the path and the noise of man was dwelling place for many tribes of forest animals. Its many roots, trees, and shrubs were immersed in the thick and high grass which covered its soil, untrodden by travelers and showing nowhere any trace of vehicles and carriages, the tracks of whose feet or wheels might have beaten something like a road or borderline, yet it was intersected with channels and full of ant hills and holes. That Sharaba had a solid body, endowed with strength, vigor, and swiftness. He was distinguished by the beautiful color of his skin. And he was addicted to practice compassion. He cherished friendly feeling towards all animals. Possessing the virtue of contentment, he subsisted only on grasses, leaves, and water, and was pleased with the residence in the forest. So he adorned that part of the forest, longing like a yogi for complete detachment. Bearing the shape of a forest animal, but possessing intellectual faculty of a man, he lived in that solitary wilderness, showing like an ascetic mercy to all living beings, and consenting himself like a yogi with the blades of grass. Now, once upon a time, it happened that the king who was ruler of that country came near that place, mounted on his excellent horse, holding his bent bow and arrow in his hand, and being eager to try his skill of arms on the game, he was pursuing the deer with speed, indulging in the excitement of the chase. So he was carried away by his horse, an animal of extraordinary swiftness, separated by no small distance from his retinue, a body of elephants, horses, chariots, and footmen. As soon as he saw the great being far from, he was resolved on killing him, and keeping ready his bow strung with a sharp arrow, spurred his horse to chase the high-minded one. But the Bodhisattva had no sooner perceived the king on horseback assailing him than he took flight with the utmost swiftness, not because he would have been powerless to stand or fight his aggressor, but because he had desisted from acts of violence and anger. While being pursued by the king, meeting with a large hole on his way, he quickly jumped over it as it were a small puddle and continued his flight. Then the excellent horse, running after the Sharaba in the same direction as swiftly as ever he could, arrived at that hole, and he hesitated to risk the leap, and all of a sudden stood still. Then the king, as he was, his bow in his hand, tumbled down from the horse and fell headlong into the large hole, as a warrior of the Dayata sinks into the ocean. Keeping his eyes fixed on the Sharaba, he had not noticed that chasm. So he fell in the fault of his own want of circumspection, as he lost his balance by the sudden stopping of horse from his great swiftness. Now the sound of the trampling of hoofs ceasing, the Bodhisattva began to think, has that king perhaps only turned back? Then turning his head and looking behind, he saw the horse without his rider standing on the brink of that chasm. On perceiving this, his thoughts turned to this reasoning. No doubt the king must have fallen into the chasm. No tree is here spreading its thick foliage, the sheltering shade of which might invite him to sit down and rest. Nor is here any lake to be found fit for bathing in its water, blue and pure as the petal of the blue lotus. No, since he entered a wild forest region haunted by ferocious animals, is he likely to be dismounted and left his excellent horse in the same place, that he might either take his rest or continue hunting alone? No more is there any jungle in such he might be hidden. Surely the king must have fallen in the hole. After he had convinced himself on this, the high-minded one left the utmost commiseration for him, and he sought his life. But lately this monarch possessed the enjoyments of royalty, being worshipped like the lord of the devas by crowds of people, revering him with clasped arms. His army attended him, mixed hosts of chariots, horsemen, footmen, the elephants, adorned with gay banners, and glittering in their armor and weapons, and marching to the brisk tones of music. His head was sheltered by the lovely umbrella, and chowries fanning him made the beautiful effect with the shine of their jeweled handles. And now, at this moment, he is lying below a large chasm. By the shock of his fall, he must have broken his bones. He has swooned or pines with sorrow. Alas, to what a distress has he come! Common people, whose mind has grown callous with suffering, so to speak, are not so much afflicted by this sorrow as men of high rank. When calamities visiting them plunge them into grief, something new to such as are accustomed to great delicacy. He will never be able to escape from hence by himself. If there is still some remnant of life in him, then it is not right to abandon him to his fate. So considering, the high-minded one, impelled by his compassion, went to the brink of the precipice and perceived him struggling there. His armor, covered with dust, had lost its splendor. His diadem and his garments were utterly disarranged, and the pain caused by the blows he had got in falling down afflicted his mind and brought him to despondency. Having seen the king in the wretched situation, he forgot he forgot that it was his enemy. He affected affected with pity felt as equal pain to his tears welled up in his eyes. And he addressed him with modest and kind language, manifesting his innate pious disposition and comforting him by the proper and respectful words he used to use in a distinct and lovely sounding voice. Thou hast received no hurt, your majesty, I hope, coming into hell resembling chasm. Thou hast broken no limb, I hope. Do thy pains grow less already? I am no goblin, O most distinguished man, I am a forest animal living within thy realm, reared upon thy grass and water, so thou may put confidence in me. Do not despond, then, because of thy fall into precipice. I have the power to rescue thee from thence. If thou thinkest me trustworthy, then quickly command me, and I come. This marvelous speech of the animal roused the admiration of the king. Shame arose within his mind, and he again, in truth, to reflect in this manner. How is it possible that he shows pity towards me, his enemy, of whose prowess he perceived himself to be the goal? And how could I act so unbecomingly to this innocent one? Oh, how he confounds me by the sharp reproach of his softness. It is I who am the animal, the brute. He is some being bearing only shape of a Sharaba. He deserved, therefore, to be honored by my acceptance of his friendly offer. Having thus made to his mind, the king spoke. My body being covered by my armor has not been too heavily injured, and the pain I feel from being crushed in the chasm is least bearable. Yet that grievance caused by my fall does not torment me so much as my offense against a being so pure-hearted and holy as thou. Do not mind it, I pray thee, that relying on thy outward shape, I look thee for a forest animal, not being aware of thy real nature. Then the Sharaba, inferring from these friendly words of the king that he agreed to his disposal, exercised himself with objects of rescuing him, bearing on his back a stone of a man's weight. Having learned the extent of his strength, determined upon rescuing the king, he went down into the hall, drawing near to him, spoke in a respectful tone. Pray, put up for a while with the necessity of touching this body of mine, that with the object of obtaining my own happiness, I may take thy face resplendent with contentment and joy. Your Majesty, deign therefore to mount upon my back and cling fast to me. And he, after declaring his approval, mounted on his back as if it were his horse. Then with the king on the back, he climbed aloft with a surpassing vigor and swiftness, and holding high the foot part of his body, resembled some stone elephant raising in the air, as is represented for ox. After carrying the king out of that inaccessible place and making him rejoin his horse, he was much rejoiced and told him the way to his capital, and himself prepared to retire to his forest. But the king, moved with gratitude for his kind service, so modestly rendered, embraced the Sharaba affectionately, saying, This life of mine is at thy disposal. O Sharaba, it is therefore unnecessary to add that thou must consider as thy property as all that is within my power. Give me then the pleasure of visiting my capital, and if thou likest it, take it my residence there. Is it not unbecoming to me that I should set out for home alone, leaving thee in the dreadful forest, haunted by hunters, where thou art exposed to suffering because of cold, heat, rain, and other calamities? Well then, let us go together. Then the Bodhisattva eulogized him in modest, soft, and respectful terms, in answering thus: In lovers of virtue like thee, O most excellent of men, a behavior like thine is the proper one. For virtues constantly practiced by pious persons turn out to be an essential part of their very nature. But since thou thinkest that I, who am accustomed to the forest, might be favored by taking up a residence at thy home, pray, no more of this. Of one kind is the pleasure of man, of another of the forest animals comfort to the habits of their kind. If, however, thou wantest to do something pleasant to me, then desist from hunting. O hero, forever, the poor beasts of the forest, being brute and dull of intellect, are worth pitying for this very reason. With respect to the pursuit of happiness and removal of mischief, the animals, thou should know, are subject to same feelings as men. Keeping this in mind, deem it improper to do it to others what would be the cause of displeasure if done to thyself. Understanding that evil deeds entail loss of reputation, censure by the virtues, and moreover suffering, thou must extirpate the evil within thee, considering it by adversary. I never become thee to overlook it, no more than illness. It is by pursuing meritorious action that thou obtainest the royal dignity, a thing highly revered by man and abode of the bliss. That very store of merit thou must enlarge. Thou shouldst not enfeeble the ranks of the benefactors. Gather meritorious action, the instruments of glory and happiness, by munificent gifts, taking care to enhance their charms by distributing them to the right time in a respectful manner, by a moral conduct, the right laws of which thou mayest learn by intercourse with virtuous persons, and by succeeding in making thy disposition towards all creatures as well-wishing as do thyself. In this manner, the high-minded one favored the king firmly, establishing him in the matters relating to the future life. And the king accepted his words, after which he entered his dwelling place in the forest, followed with respectful looks by the king. In this manner, the intensely compassionate show pity even to him who attempts their life. When he is in distress, they will not disregard such a one. This story is to be told also when treating of commiseration, when discoursing on the high-mindedness of the Tathagata, on the subject of listening with attention to the preaching of the law. Likewise, it is to be propounded when demonstrating that enmities are appeased by means of friendliness, also when treating of the virtue of forbearance. In this way, it is seen that the high-minded, even when in the state of beasts, behave mercifully towards others who attempt their life. How indeed should it become a human being, or one who has taken the vow of homeless life, to be wanting in mercy towards animals? For this reason, a pious man must show mercy to all living beings. Sharaba. Story of Sharaba. I think we've done this Ruru deer. Ruru deer we have done before. That'll do. Thank you very much tonight. Thank you, everybody. That was a lovely story. Incredible stories of how bodhisattvas are born as animals, and instead of resenting and the harm caused by the king who came to hunt him, but instead he goes and rescue him out of that. So that is exactly what human beings don't do. Human beings tit for tat, zero tolerance, and that sort of thing. As a Buddhist who believe in these teachings, an act of Bodhisattva vow is that if someone chastises you, don't chastise them back. If someone scolds you, don't scold them back. Someone hits you, don't hit them back. Someone blames you, don't blame them back. But instead try to nurse them. Nurse them because they are so distressed to the extent of having to do such a thing is not in a good state. So instead of feeling harm they're causing, the Sharaba did not think what the harm the king was causing him, but he was seeing the king himself now have fallen into such a poor state. He straight away took on the plight of the king, more important than himself. And that kind of bodhisattva act is called putting others before oneself. Not just before oneself to get a cup of tea or something like that. Even to let somebody to have a cup of tea before you in the queue is a good thing, It's a small act like that can teach you, It's really incredible. So small, but you wouldn't believe how much joy it gives when someone offers something and their seat or their cup or their, whatever. Incredible. Small act is so beautiful. And not to mention big act like not only pardoning what the king was trying to do, but taking the king's suffering and not minding anything what he was doing. And this is what we need to try to believe. Are the trainings and vows of bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas have to make a vow to do that. Not only when somebody is nice to you, you try to nice. That's nothing bodhisattva. Even animals do that. Even ordinary people do that. One has to do something extraordinarily special, extraordinarily different. That instead of seeking others to praise you and give you, you try to praise even if they try to denigrate you. This is the bodhisattva practice. Even if somebody denigrate you, which is very welcome news to you. For a bodhisattva practitioner, if someone is really harsh on you, someone puts you down, attack you, the bodhisattva should see them not as their wrongdoing, but as a test your cherishing, your selfishness, your lack of patience, or your presence of patience. This is the test being done. So therefore, instead of feeling oneself being hunted or haunted or harmed by somebody, but rather one feels, I'm helped by the Lord sentient being in this kind of situation. This is Buddhist belief. This is what the Bodhisattva's teachings are. It may be difficult to do, but these are the teachings that we believe is the true teachings of the Buddha. It's definitely not easy to do, but that's exactly why it's a practice. If one doesn't have to practice, it's not a practice. One always looks after oneself, and then always retaliate somebody, even if they didn't do anything. That's not a practice. That's just bad habit. It's a deposit of bad habits. So there's no sign of a practitioner in that. So one has to almost forgive the others and practice kindness to them. In this life, it looks like he is doing this, he's like that to this or that. But in the past life, I must have done many, many times more than this to him or others. That's bound to be true. That is the Buddhist belief. I don't know how these days people think Buddhists can practice without these beliefs. I don't know how they can even dare to call themselves Buddhists. Buddhists have to believe in these things. First believing. I'm not saying able to do it straight away, but must still believe this is the correct teaching. This is the true teaching. That is the teaching. That is the teaching with belief. That's what Buddha told the stories. And if it wasn't him who will tell the stories, who will listen to it? let alone who will believe to it. Now, not only Buddha told and people listened and everybody believed, that it's been just passed down last 22,500 years. Incredible. When I see these translations, it just bring me amazing, like the verses that I read about that. I've seen somewhere it comes from Jatakamala is the most classical Buddhist works. Some people think Nagarjuna's writings are very classical. Of course, I too will rejoice in thinking like that. But remember, even Nagarjuna is only a 2nd century A.D. Shakyamuni Buddha is 400 BC, That's like 600 years before Nagarjuna came, So therefore, no matter how many good poets or good writers, authors write beautiful Buddhist lines, they're all originally Buddha's words. It's incredible. It's the teachings and stories of the Buddha that makes people almost worthy as a speaker, because they're so reliable, so authentic, so original, and so much truth, so much wisdom. Even the just kind of nursery rhymes and stories makes the babies happy and go to bed, instead of crying, But these are not nursery rhymes or bedtime stories. These are stories to wake us up from these disbeliefs. These days, people are disbelieving the Buddhist teachings. They think that we cannot believe this. No, we don't want to do that. They only do for this and me and this life, and that is not Buddhism. Sure, people can practice mindfulness and learn certain Buddhist teachings and try to better this life. There's nothing harm with that. We rather have people living kindly and compassionately in this life than not. But remember, Buddhists have to practice not for this life. Buddhists with beliefs is always for the sake of others. That's why Buddha took great effort to tell all these stories in order to open up the mind of people who have very limited kind of memory and very, very difficult to believe in things that they cannot see with their wax eyes. All our eyes are completely waxed, and we have the cataract of disbelief and not believing. All this. Nobody is forcing us to believe in things, but we need to rationalize why these teachings Buddha taught with great liberty. They think about the reincarnation as being very difficult, but they don't realize the reincarnation is not a correct words. Reincarnation has a suggestion that you become the same person, become same person. The same person doesn't become. Like if you have an example, a simple example of kiwi fruit say avocado. You have avocado, yeah, avocado. You can cut up the avocado and eat the avocado. And then that's the life of this avocado. But then sow that very seed of avocado, and then it grows again. See? So that's the reincarnation. So it's not the same avocado that you have already eaten. No. The one you eat is not what it is, but means the continuity of that. There is a kind of a continuity of that mind stream, like we have continued from 70 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. We don't have to almost believe there was past life, because we have many past lives in this very life. You don't have to remember past life. You can remember past life of this life. You have many past lives, in this very life you were this, you were this, you were that, you were that, and now we are no longer that, but we are someone different. Hopefully, we shouldn't remain same. That's the problem. If you think the same one is born again, that's not Buddhist beliefs. And the river that flows 20 miles up north and coming down your valley is the river. The water is same stream, but it's not the same water. stream of water is flowing. The water downstream 20 miles ahead is not the same water, the water up there. But the continuity between these two is the same. So therefore, our consciousness is not a material thing that is of course, it is to most people, they could not comprehend or fathom. And that's no fault of anyone. Because we cannot comprehend and fathom, that's what Buddha told these stories in order to say, wow, we believe you, Buddha. we believe you, Buddha. And when we believe the Buddha, that's what when a person actually become a Buddhist, And not only that, then you believe in his teachings, and then you believe in the tradition and culture, and we actually the reading these days, of course, everybody is literate. So, but if they read the whole Jatakamala stories, like there's 300 over these 2 volumes, it's really good karma for you, Every time you read these stories, it just opens our mind. Gosh, the Buddha is the only one who knows all, and he wouldn't be telling this unless there's a huge reason that is beyond our imagination. Wow, I must give some thought to it. So therefore, listening and telling and reading is meritorious karma. Very, very meritorious karma. Really, when we go to India or somewhere Buddhist sites, thousands of years ago, all those people have believed in these stories. They have carved on rocks. Now this is like 2,000 years after you go to they're still there. The story of the Shibi, story of this Ruru, the deer, and buffalo, and story of the woodpecker, story of the hungry tigers. It's all, when I went to, Borobudur in July, and that was built in 8th century. 8th century, and it has a peak of course, the occasion there, but even now, those balustrades still sitting there, and everybody can recognize the same balustrades and carvings like they see temples in India. This is why the Buddhists not only they make it for the artistic purpose, they actually tell that this was such and such. This is the life of that, and then read the story. These days, most people are literate. Everybody's literate. The question is, what kind of material they're reading. So, if they can read this by the way, the story of 34 stories of Jatakamala story by Arya Sura is already available online as a PDF, This is why we have to rejoice the modern technology. So so of course it's good that we are disciples of the Dharma. We are friends, so we can sit together and once a week and read a couple of stories. Incredible use of your time, and it will bless your mind, bless your heart, and change your perspective, and you make a new opening into your way of thinking. And this is the blessings. Blessings means gifts, The one who thinks of the Buddha, even one moment, there's enormous merit. But one who thinks about Buddha's past lives and believes them because of the teaching story told by the Buddha, and then take into account what morale is there from these stories, And lots of people, he did this to me, she did this to me, and holding grudge over years. A Bodhisattva, on the very spot, he took no effort to keep resentment towards the king who was there to get him. And a Bodhisattva has to straight away change from this to that and not hang on to that ill will and resentment and bitterness. Even to drop the anger, not to keep the anger within a few hours is a good sign, If you're keeping anger over something, to somebody, over one issue, after months and months, you are breaking your Bodhisattva vows. No matter whatever outward form of mantra reciting you do, though these things are this is superficial. Real practice is not harboring ill will, not and generating bodhicitta. If you're generating bodhicitta, you could not afford to have ill will. Thus, they two do not coexist. Ill will and bodhicitta, one is bodhicitta, one is ill citta. One is enlightenment citta, another is sickness citta. So people are so sick. Why? Because they are always sick. They're only able to think sick things. So that's why we need to hear stories like this and believe in them, and then try to give ourselves some counsel. Okay, we should counsel ourselves to what is the advice we can draw. Say if you have some animosity towards something or someone, it's not good. That is the shame of all shame. These are not non-virtues nobody can see. It's in the heart. If you say something in front of somebody or do something untoward, there people can see straight away. They'll throw a stone at you, and you will have to quickly own it and forgive or apologize. But the ill will is the most unnoticeable but most serious harm causer of your well-being. So that's why this story, like tonight one, is the Sharaba story. Sharaba. What's a Sharaba? Griffin. Sharaba is a crossbreed between griffin and lion. Yeah. Sharaba.
It's a real animal, not a mythical animal. It's a real animal.
Yeah, real animal, I think. Here. Some people call it an eight-legged lion. Eight-legged lion. But actually it got wings. It got wings as well as forehand and hind, what you call?
Mythical.
Well, I think it exists, I mean, Bodhisattva is pretty mythical. The existence of Bodhisattva is probably rarer than Sharabas. You can't recognize the Sharabas. Anyway. You will see that incredible animals. Some animals behaving towards each other. It's incredible, really. I mean, they have the instincts of a bodhisattva. They're really incredible. So we too, of course, we have much more greater potential if we just nurse that bodhicitta and kindness to others. So thank you very much, everyone. Please continue from next week onwards, because I'm doing another thing and then going. But Jamyangla here will take on reading more stories from Jatakamala. So please continue. So thank you very much, everyone. Om Bade Mere Mere O Ganda Deva Menzage Hom Neze Mehale Bere Robe from the ocean Bade Senede Erenda Mayana Tije Vadeva Merera Meo Begas de Lavas Choedak Mayana Jiji Courage Manjushin Yode Azama Drabadra de Lava Following Ode Zamba Aisha de de Mere Mede Excellent Bodhicitta Tebe Vere Noya Danzo Where has been Bomere Freely with the generation. Thank you, everyone.